All right, we're excited to have Scott Baldwin, aka Scottie B Cards, on both Instagram and YouTube on this podcast because A, he's super knowledgeable about baseball and how it impacts baseball card prices, and B, he offers good practical advice on how to be successful in the hobby by making good practical choices. And I know I'm not the only one who would agree because Scott has over 10,000 subscribers on the Scottie B Cards YouTube channel, which you should all subscribe to right now if you haven't already. We'll also include it in our show notes on this podcast episode. So yeah, Scott, so glad to have you on the pod for this episode.
Yeah, thank you. You talked me up way too much in that introduction, but I appreciate it.
I wanted to do a good job. And yeah, like we mentioned off the air, we're really big fans of your content. And just the in-depth analysis that you go into with some of the hobby topics. So really appreciative of that. But
yeah,
first,
of course.
Yeah. First question we like to ask all of our guests is kind of start from the beginning, so to speak, in terms of where you started with collecting sports cards. Were you like us, where we all collected as kids and then we kind of stopped when we grew up a little bit and we all rushed back into it? Or have you been collecting all this time? What's your story?
So that is, I think, the basic story of almost anybody our age in the hobby. But my very first blaster box was at 8 years old. My parents on Christmas got me a 2003 Topps blaster box. So LeBron James year.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I only hit a Carmelo rookie, but that was my first introduction to sports cards. Before that, I did a lot of Pokemon, was really big into Pokemon. And as I got older, I enjoyed basketball. So that's what my parents got me. I collected exclusively basketball through 2010. And then I stopped collecting for probably 2 years, maybe 3, but I would buy a blaster box maybe once or twice a year.
Right.
So I never all the way left, but I wasn't really heavily back into it until about 2015 when I started to really, like, I'm a Rockies fan. So Arenado came out strong and Mike Trout was doing really well. So I looked at all their cards, and ever since then, I've just been into it. But it's funny because I did not start with baseball cards at all. I did basketball 100%. And now I can't collect basketball. I don't know what it is. Baseball just, we don't ever see Moneyball, but baseball is just romantic. You can't help but be romantic about
I'm
baseball.
the same way, man. I'm the same way. It always go back to baseball.
Yeah, no matter what. I have no idea what it is. I know the other sports have more money in them, but baseball is at least predictable for me, so I can make more money consistently. So
Love it. Great. Can I ask what did you do before you got back into the hobby? You mentioned you stopped for a little while, but yeah.
Oh man, high school for a few years. So I graduated high school in 2013, and then I had a few years, and then I was into college and graduated in 2020. But just between those few years of high school and college, didn't really do it much. But then I remember finding my old Pokemon cards, and again, that kind of sparked it, along with the success of a couple of baseball players that really drew my interest. But yeah, it was stupid because those were the years to buy cards. If I'd have been in that era with all the vintage prices and prices of all the community prison basketball, what it was, I could have made a lot more money than I have now. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think we all have similar stories where we missed a lot of opportunities in the past.
I told my wife that I don't think time machines are real, because if they were real, all of those sports cards would be gone. But we wouldn't find those in boxes or hobby shops anymore.
100%. All right. We mentioned it off the top. Your content is great. And like I said, very practical advice and good in-depth analysis. Just wondering what made you want to put out content, about the hobby rather than just, privately collecting like a lot of people do, right?
Yeah. So I enjoy my PC a lot. And even though my content's a lot more investment focused, and if you want to call a hobby an investment, you might call it speculation instead of investment, but I don't do a lot myself. But I was talking to my coworker. He's a baseball fan. I changed jobs and was sitting next to him, and we talked about the Rockies all the time because he's also a Rockies fan. And I would just talk about cards all the time and the cool Mike Trout rookie card I bought. And he realized that I understood it a lot more than I should, because I look at eBay all day, and you know how sports card addicts like ourselves are.
Yeah.
And so he just said that I needed to give it a shot. And he was telling me that for about 6 months before I finally decided to actually do it in January of 2021. So he still edits my videos. That's how I'm able to keep releasing content
Oh,
consistently.
awesome.
And
Nice.
so we have a deal with the monetization. And so it
Yeah.
makes sense for both of us to keep going with it. And so without him, I would never have started. I would have just kept collecting the same way.
Right.
But I also started because there was just no baseball content. There still really isn't purely baseball content out there besides a few channels.
Yeah.
And so that's partially why I did it as well, because I didn't think baseball was represented well in like sports cards at all. And that kind of bugged me. So I wanted to change that a little bit.
No, that's
Nice.
cool. Definitely,
Nice.
us diehard baseball card collectors are very appreciative of your content.
Yeah, but you guys agree, right? Like if you look at Sports Card Investor, he focuses on basketball, sometimes football, but no baseball.
It's very
if he
general.
does, it's very
true.
Yeah. So that's my biggest beef with it at the time. So that's part of the reason I did it. So
Okay.
Nice.
One of the for me personally, one of the draws that I got into watching you pretty much right from the beginning is for anybody that's getting into baseball, it's probably the most intimidating in terms of collecting because it's just so confusing. I think basketball is fairly simple. It's like Panini Prism, you know what the rookie cards are. But with baseball, when anybody that's either coming back to the hobby or getting into it right now, and you're trying to learn what the heck is Bowman first, you know, what's a prospect card, what's the main rookie card, there are just so many sets to pick from. It's really intimidating. So I think one of my earliest memories of watching one of your videos is when you made those sort of like pyramid videos. You're talking about like the top 10 Tatis rookie cards. Like that was so helpful for a lot of us trying to learn, you know, which Tatis is the best one, you know, the main one to collect or whatever. So yeah, it's really good stuff. You're absolutely right that there's just not enough, especially knowledgeable people like yourself in the baseball content creation world. So yeah.
Well, thank you. And the baseball, there's a lot of great baseball card content creators. They just focus primarily on their PC. You know, I'm sure you guys see that all the time. And so I just wanted to take a step further. The rookie card rankings, the ones you're talking about, are my favorite videos to make probably. I just wish they got more views. You know, I could spend 3 hours on them. Let's get a couple thousand views, but then I'll make a 5-minute video about PSA and it'll get 30,000 views. It's just funny how the YouTube algorithm carries things. But I want to get more back to those roots because those were pretty fun. Well, thank you as well. I appreciate that you guys watch the channel. It's fun to hear that.
Yeah. And you know what? The reason why we wanted you on at this time is, of course, the 2021 Bowman Drafts boxes just came out, and we love just prospecting in general. And I know you mentioned on Instagram before we went live, you weren't huge into prospects, but just still wanted to ask you, any player in the 2021 Bowman Drafts that you're excited about, or any young rookies that young prospects that you're excited about?
I have to say Benny Montgomery, just because he's a Rockies draft pick and he has all the tools in the world to be good, but so did hundreds of other busts that have happened. So we'll see if it pans out. But I really like Benny Montgomery. Marcelo Mayer, he has, again, all those tools as well. I think he's right out of high school, if I'm not mistaken. And if I am, I apologize. But his numbers his senior year were very impressive. So I'm interested to see how he'll fare in the minor leagues this year. But for prospects, I always struggle with them just because of how expensive they are. You know, it's pretty predictable like path that prospects take when you buy purely prospects of when their cards are going to lose their value. And sometimes even if they're playing pretty good in the big leagues, if they make it to the big leagues, it's really hard to maintain those peaks. But if I was going to recommend any prospect to look at, I don't know if Wander Franco still counts as a prospect, but if he does, I think he is awesome. And then if you look at Julio Rodriguez, and I don't know Bobby Witt as much as other people, but Julio Rodriguez is the one that I personally have put stock into because I think he could be the real deal in Seattle.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, the prospect versus rookie landscape could be really confusing for anybody who's not a huge baseball fan. So don't let it intimidate you too much.
I wanted to ask you too, I just saw recently on your Instagram story, you did a kind of a mini rant about prospects rarely working out long-term. I love that because I agree 100%. And, you know, just the lesson there is knowing when to sell your young guys versus, you know, stacking generational talent, like you mentioned. Did you want to expand on that further? I want to give you the pulpit.
Oh man, I'm sure you guys get certain ways where you're on Twitter and you argue with some people about certain things, and then it just kind of, you have enough of it after a while, you know, about certain players. And all you hear now is Mike Trout is overrated, or he's never won a ring, or all these different things, or he's washed up. And I think people need to check their expectations on all these young guys. If you look at Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, for example, Mike Trout at age 20, he's 30 now, but through his age 29 season has this much WAR. He has 75 WAR. WAR is wins above replacement, meaning he's added 75 wins for his team in his career. And the average Hall of Famer is like around 65. So to be that good, that young is still really impressive. And a player like Tatis or Soto or Bobby Witt Jr., that's a big ask of them. They have to be Mike Trout in order for their values to maintain, because you have Mike Trout here with his Bowman chromatograph around $15,000, 9.510. And then you have Mookie Betts, who's at 50 WAR at age 28, still really good, just not as good as Mike Trout. His Bowman chromatograph is like $1,200 and a 9.510. Right. So that's what I was just talking about. We're acting like these really good players aren't that good, and these really young guys are really good. So I just get annoyed with some of the outlook of some people. But to each their own. Prospecting can be very lucrative for sure.
Sure. And I think I mentioned also, like, I love your Mookie Betts takes. Like, 100% on your side when it comes to Mookie and being underrated, undervalued. Was there any other underrated players in MLB right now playing in the pros you might want to potentially invest in?
Yeah, so let's talk about Mookie Betts for 1 second. So that Mookie Betts was MVP runner-up in 2020. He led both leagues, American National League, so the entire MLB, in WAR, and he was a great player. And then in 2021, he has an injured season where he hurt his hip, and it affected his power and his batting average the whole year, essentially. And people now say he's not even a top 20 player in baseball, right? So that's the type of thing you have to pay attention to. Because his prices have dropped so much, he's an excellent buy. And he is smaller, and who knows how well he'll age. But if he ages like normal players, he still has 3 or 4 good years left in him until around age 31 to 32. So I think he's a great buy. Another player who is under the radar that is potentially on a Hall of Fame path, that it all depends on the next 2 years, is like Jose Ramirez, for example, right? He's a switch hitter for the Indians, the third base, shortstop, second baseman, all over the infield. He does not look good at baseball, but he just has all the tools to be a 7 WAR player almost consistently, maybe 6 WAR. Let's not be too crazy per season, meaning he's an all-star to MVP level player for the last 5 years. So he's another one that's really undervalued. Mike Trout, I have a hard time saying is undervalued because his cards are still the most expensive in the entire sport, but they are lower, which is a good target for that reason. But who else? I like Juan Soto. Can't really recommend him to anybody right now, but those are the 3 that I like right now. So Jose Ramirez is like my one sleeper pick. So I wasn't just saying the best players.
Right. Okay. And you said Juan Soto, you can't, is it because his prices are pretty high right now?
Yeah, these prices are they're really high this offseason. So I think Juan Soto's usually a slow starter. So if he has a slow start, then I think he could be the guy to pick up once the season gets going. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, and just going back to your IG rant, I also wanted to add, I saw, I think in one of your YouTube videos where you were just kind of answering other viewers' hot takes, and the whole Anthony Volpe is better than Mike Trout. I think you sarcastically said, yeah, go invest in Volpe. But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
Well, thank you. I didn't know if people were going to like that or be offended by it, so I'm glad it came on in good humor.
Nice.
My comment, for anybody who didn't see it, was someone asked, well, actually, I have a channel called Hot Takes where I ask you to say what your hot takes are in the baseball card world. Yeah. And someone said people should be buying Mike Trout instead of Anthony Volpe. And I told them, if you're not buying Anthony Volpe, you shouldn't be in the hobby. So that's where that came from. So
that was funny. All right, just kind of switching gears a little bit. I don't know if you have an opinion on this, but the big news in the hobby, especially with baseball cards because Topps is involved. Any thoughts on Topps being bought out by Fanatics? Any opinion on that?
Yeah. So I think it's a very good thing for baseball. So I don't think much is going to change in the hobby for baseball collectors. But what is going to change is basketball and football collectors will now understand what sets to target in baseball. Because a lot of those finest Topps Chrome sets will carry over. And I think some of the barriers to entry of baseball, like we already talked about, is just we don't know what to target for a lot of people who don't know how to approach it. So I think that will help baseball. But on top of that, I just think it's nice to know that we're going to have Topps, the brand, for the foreseeable future. That was my concern. I'm sure. Did you guys feel the same way, or is that just me
100%.
Absolutely,
thinking about it?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, really
That
happy
was my
with that.
biggest concern.
Great. Also have a lot of rapid fire questions, but I wanted to turn it to you guys. Johnny, Hyung, do you have any question for Scott?
No,
Yeah,
for me,
Go ahead. No, Hyung, you go ahead.
we started talking just on Instagram, just as hobbyists, right? So for me, when you started, I've seen this whole evolution. It's same. I said the same thing with Costa, where Costa cards and he's doing big night breaks and stuff like that. It was the same thing. We're on Instagram with 0 followers, and basically showing off our PC, and then we started just shooting the crap about baseball cards and what's good value, and just to see kind of the evolution of you kind of going and growing past 10,000 subscribers. That I was watching from the sidelines this whole time. And that's why I told Clark, I'm like, we got to get this guy on the show because he actually knows what he's talking about. So not necessarily a question, but that's how we kind of all, I guess, I linked up with Scottie earlier just through Instagram, and we just stayed in contact. We talk cards all the time, right? So that's how it kind of all started. Yeah. So
we've been chatting for how many months? We've been probably talking for almost since I completely started, if not before.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I was one of our first followers or something like that when I started my account as well, and when we all started our journey. So it's always fun to see where everybody kind of takes it, right? And
totally. No, totally. It's interesting, and like the subscriber count, I genuinely appreciate everybody who watches my channel, just because I know, like, out of all of the different types of entertainment they could pick, it's flattering to have them want to watch my stuff. And same to you guys. So thank you. One question I have for you guys, you asked me some questions. Who are you guys targeting in baseball for this year? I want to hear your thoughts on it.
That's a great question. Because go ahead, Clark or John, if you guys want to, because I'm just buying everything and anything. It seems like lately, or I'm just ripping anything and everything lately, just for personal. But
Johnny, you go first.
Yeah, I'm in a sad situation because I got a pretty decent Luis Robert and Tatis collection, and I really want to get into Soto, but Scottie, you kind of mentioned it too, and we all realize it. Soto's just, he's flying high right now, and I feel like it's a little too expensive to get into it. So I'm sitting on the sidelines, but I definitely want a pretty decent Soto at some point in 2022. Yeah. That's a target.
Well, I think Tatis, he right now, so I talked about Jose Ramirez, and if this is the first time you ever heard me talk, please don't go buy Jose Ramirez. And if he does bad, blame me, please. He's just my one sleeper. Make sure we have that word in there. But Tatis is an excellent buy in comparison to his peers for his price right now. You can go buy a gold refractor from Bowman's Best or Sterling for $500 right now. I know that's expensive for a lot of people still, but in comparison where Soto is, I think he has tons of room to move. Same with Luis Robert. And once he has a full year under his belt, I actually did a video kind of on him, just barely. He actually is averaging around 7 WAR per 162 games played. So once he has a full season, if you can maintain, that's going to be a very good person to hold for you. So those are good ones.
I love it.
I'm glad you mentioned the Sterling, because I have the PSA 10 gold Sterling of Tatis.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Underrated, man. Sterling's so underrated.
I have the PSA 9 over here.
Oh, PSA 9?
Grab that.
Nice.
Yeah, for me, I'm just looking over my most recent purchases on eBay. I love Rafael Devers. He's one of those guys I just think people are sleeping on. These guys know, because I always talk about Devers every chance I get. Bo Bichette, I just feel like it was overshadowed by Vlad last year, and I think his skill level is amazing. And I actually bought Shohei Ohtani before last season, just kind of banking on that he would put it all together, which I was lucky that he did. And I kind of flipped that for a Vlad Guerrero first Bowman auto, so that kind of worked out for me. But for me this year, I feel like you kind of mentioned it, Luis Robert. I feel like he has that potential where if he puts it all together a full season, you're just going to see his prices pretty much skyrocket over the course of 2022. So I got his first Bowman Chrome Auto PSA 10 just a couple months ago. So just holding on to that. And like you said, Tatis Topps Chrome Auto is another one. Like, I agree with you 100% compared to the other guys, even Acuna. who hasn't really gone down even with his ACL injury.
Yeah.
I'm trying to buy an
crazy.
Acuna, but it hasn't come down. So I won Tatis instead and just investing in him. So we'll see how that turns out.
Acuna is a kind of a funny situation. He's actually gone up since he's been hurt.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they won a World Series, but he didn't play in it. So it's been interesting to see how that played out. But people are expecting him to be MVP candidate Ronald Acuna next. So we'll see if his ACL can recover well enough in time.
Acuna's prices are always bonkers. They are always bonkers in the hobby. Even when before the whole boom, everybody was after Acuna, right?
Yeah.
So, but I agree with you guys. There's a lot of guys that are undervalued. I think those are the guys that you kind of go after, like Mookie Betts, like criminally criminally undervalued, some of his stuff, right? And I do like Bo Bichette as well. I think Vladdy is a little undervalued too, because for me, Vladdy is about what he's gonna do, because I believe in his talent that much. So it's not obviously he has to put the numbers and follow up with what he needs to do. But I'm excited I think Vladdy, because he was the number one prospect coming into it, and everybody before the hobby boom, Vladdy's prices were skyrocketing as well.
Yeah.
And basically his first year in the big leagues in 2019, when his rookie season came out, everybody thought he was a flop, right? And like I said, like you guys mentioned earlier, 19 what were you doing when you were 19 years old or 20 years old? Like give the guy a break, right? So it's I think his prices took a tumble, like to the point where all the like the Acuñas, the Sotos, the Tatis, they just went skyrocketing, and then Vladdy kind of just leveled out because 2019 wasn't a great season, and then all of a sudden he has that season, and you've seen the spike, but it was nowhere near where it was actually, where it was before. Yeah. So for me, I think Vladdy's still a good buy, because it's not based on what he's done, it's more so what he's going to do, and like you just seen a small sample size of last year. So I like Vladdy's prices where they are. I still think it's a dip.
Yeah. Totally. It's really hard to be very good against the best talent in all the entire world when you're 19 years old.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So for him to be as good as he was at age 22 or 21 this year, it's really saying something. Insane. So I think he's a great buy. I just wish he was a better defender. And he's actually working out hard this offseason. He made comments how he wants to get in better shape, because before, when he was a rookie, like in 2019, he wasn't lifting. But now he is. So that might help his defense. But we can see players like, let's look at more one-dimensional sluggers. Let's look at Frank Thomas or even David Ortiz.
Yeah.
Those type of players, they're still loved in the hobby because of that talent. That's where it gets harder with like a Mookie Betts. He's, in my opinion, I don't want to, that's too hot. That's too hot of a take. I don't want to say that. And I'll just say this. In my opinion, Mookie Betts is a generational talent for us. And he's different because he adds runs to his team, and runs win games differently than these sluggers. He adds on the base paths and on defense as well on offense. So his value isn't there yet, but I think in the long run, people will appreciate him.
Bichette reminds me a little bit of Mookie. The numbers he's going to kind of put up very similar, where it's, floating around the 300 mark. 30 home runs is probably pushing it, but he can do it. And, Bichette drove in over 100, runs this year, and he scored a ton. So I see Bichette getting that kind of Mookie treatment throughout his career as well. Kind of similar pass to kind of card prices with Mookie as well.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what happens with Bichette. I'm biased. Dante, his father, played for the Rockies.
Right.
So I've always like kind of cheered for him to do well. But Bichette, I wish his defense was a little bit better. If you look at Baseball Savant, and I'm really going deep on statistics, I'm sorry, but that's just like, it measures this metric called outs above average, which compares you to league average on your defense, and it puts you in a tier system. That's the one place where Bichette isn't great. But other than that, I think he's a great player. So if he can age better into like becoming a better defender as he gets older and learns, he could be a great pickup. I agree.
Nice. Scott, you made me want to buy more Mookie Betts cards right after this episode. I'm on eBay.
Yeah.
I make myself want to buy more Mookie Betts. I make myself. I think I might be too close. Like when you have a crush on a girl, and you think she's really cute because you're like, talking to her all the time.
Yeah.
And then you're like away from her for a year and you're like, oh, she wasn't that cute. That might be Mookie Betts for me. I don't know. We'll see.
That's a great
We'll see what
analogy.
happens.
Yeah, that's
That's
hilarious. Johnny, you got
Scottie,
a question?
yeah, well, I'll switch gears into like a question about content creation. Now that you're like a year in, you know, you can call yourself a grizzled vet. Do you have like one piece of advice for somebody that is starting their content creation, you know, journey or wants to start? Do you have any sort of like a singular piece of advice that you could offer somebody?
Give me 1 sec. Sorry. So I have a couple. I'll just say it this way. Know what you want to do with it. What you want to do with your content. Like, you don't have to know your voice right away, but if you want to have a podcast and share your thoughts with people, that's awesome. If you want to have daily content, that's going to have a lot of work. So just know going into it that it can be a lot of work in regards to making the editing really good, making your thumbnails well enough to want to click on them and watch it to get your click-through rate high enough for the algorithm to like you, all these different things. But just focus on what you're good at. And that's kind of what I did. I actually, when I first started, the Shohei Ohtani and was it Tatis? My rookie card ranking videos of them were really popular. And so I was debating doing other sports, but I realized that it wasn't a smart move because the reason why people like what I was doing is because I knew what I was talking about, at least a little bit. So it's one of those things, do what you know, because if you're able to talk about what you know, other people who are similar to you are going to be attracted to your content. And that's how you're going to grow.
Great advice.
Nice.
If you fake it, people will know. If you try to be the same as somebody else, people will know. Find your niche, and that's going to be really helpful. So
Great advice.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Scottie, I wanted to kind of wrap up this interview with a few rapid fire questions, if you don't mind.
Great, let's do it.
Just about the hobby in general. But number one, is Wander Franco's Bowman's best card his flagship rookie card?
No, it's not. And I know the reason I say that. So for you guys that don't know, Beckett, for some reason, thinks that's his rookie card because they share the checklist with veterans.
Right.
That is the silliest definition of a rookie card. We have literal rookie logos in that set. And this is his third prospect Bowman's best card. So no, I don't think so. But
So
I see why people might think it.
Got it. So I assume that you're on the Topps. Well, Series 1, I guess 2022 will be his flagship rookie.
Yeah, it's going to be printed to the moon, but yes.
Yeah.
All right. I know we talked about how you take hobby hot takes from your subscribers, your viewers, and you kind of react to it. Do you have a hobby hot take yourself for this upcoming season?
Oh man, let's define a hot take. So how hot do you want it?
As
Like,
hot as you want.
Boiling hot.
I'm going to give you a
Whatever you
mildly
really
hot
truly
take.
believe.
I'll give
whatever
you a
you truly
mildly
believe.
hot take, so that way people who are listening will actually not hate me. I'm going to say Mike Trout's going to put up an 8-WAR season and Mookie Betts will have a 6-WAR season. If they can stay healthy, of course. But that's my hot take. If they're healthy, they're going to have top 5 MVP seasons each.
Wow.
Nice. Okay.
Nice.
On the same topic. Oh, let me get one more hot than that. That's I've already shared that opinion like 5 times in this video. Let me think. I think that Aaron Judge is going to be he's a top 5 candidate this year. Get back to me. We'll come back to that hot take. I'll have a good one for you.
I like
Yes.
Aaron Judge, though. I like where you're going there. All right, we'll come back to you whenever you think of one. Just jump in. All right, what's the favorite card you personally own right now?
Oh man, I can show you the most recent card I got in. If you want me to
Okay.
grab it real quick,
Sure.
and I'll tell everybody else who's listening on the podcast, so that way they don't feel left out. So I actually was just sorting everything, just barely,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a really cool Juan Soto atomic autograph from Bowman's Best. I just
nice.
traded
Wow.
for his Bowman's Best first autograph. So I know I traded a gorgeous card for not so pretty card. I just got that card in, but I also got this card in, which I really like. This is Mike Trout. So you guys might have already seen it.
Oh yeah.
Bowman
Nice.
Sterling.
Oh,
rookie.
nice.
Yeah.
It's numbered to
Underrated.
25. So
Shiny.
25.
it is an 8.5, but to get a Mike Trout rookie that low numbered is something I
Right.
didn't think I was going to do yet. So this is my newest one, and of course the newest one you buy is the one you like until You see
Yeah.
something else you want on the internet,
That's
and you
sweet.
buy that one. So
That's a sweet card. Yeah. How about what's your Grail card? Something you don't have yet, but
So I've always wanted to get a Mookie Betts gold Bowman Chrome autograph. And I actually had the opportunity to buy a Mookie Betts red Bowman Chrome autograph number /5
wow.
for $25,000. And at the time, I didn't have a powerful enough a collection to sell everything and buy it. But now I would get it in a heartbeat because that would have been a great card. I think it's like a $500,000 card. So.
Yeah. Gee,
So I downgraded from my Grail being a red to a gold because I might be able to afford that one.
Okay.
So
That would have been a sweet card. And then that doesn't come obviously at number /5. It doesn't come out. It's,
no, not at all.
Ever. Right.
I know a guy who owns it, but I know what he's asking for it. And I think it's fair, but it's definitely worth more than my house. So probably not.
Cool. All right, then we kind of touched upon this already, but we'd love to ask our guests, our American friends, with Vlad Guerrero and Bo Bichette playing for the Jays, and we're rooting hard for them. We sometimes need that kind of check. Are we just being homers, or do you think they're legit studs?
I think they're both very good. I think Vlad's better than Bichette, and I think Bichette's great. But I think Vlad, he played in Dunedin and he played in Buffalo, and that really helped his numbers. But I still think he unlocked something last year. So no, I don't think your homer's one bit. I just hope George Springer turns out to be a decent contract for you, because that's what's going to tear you down if it doesn't work out.
Right. Yeah.
Pay a lot of money for Mr. Springer, and he might not play at all. So
for sure.
That's right. So
I don't know if you guys agree with that or not. Maybe you like.
No, 100%. 100%. Yeah.
Agreed.
100%. Yeah, but we're still looking forward to the season. We got a young core.
How do you guys feel about Austin Martin being traded for, who was it? Jose Barrios.
You know what?
How did that feel?
I'm okay with that. 100%. I'm okay. I wasn't high on Austin Martin to begin with, to be honest. What worries about me with him is the size, to be honest. And he was at Vandy, and he performed well in the college setting, but pro ball is different, and you kind of see it in the minors. I mean, this year is going to be obviously a big year, but he came in with a lot of hype, and
He did.
And he honestly put very, very sub average numbers, and that's what really worries me with guys of, I guess, his size. Is the strength there to endure, to carry? That's the same kind of question with like Mookie Betts, Bo Bichette. Are their bodies going to be able to kind of sustain? And for me, I'm glad we got rid of him, to be honest. I thought it was a good trade.
No, I think it was good for you too in the long run. It's one of those things where like you traded your top prospect, but
Right.
he was in AA and had a sub 800 OPS with only 5 home runs. I think it was a good move. We'll just see if Barrios can be Barrios, then it's great.
Right.
But,
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited for you guys. I want you to beat the Rays and the Yankees. That'd be so cool.
It
That'd be
sucks in the
so
AL
cool to
East,
see.
man. I'm telling you, it's tough.
We grew up in the
Never
Hey, you
Toughest
guys might
league
have a second team with the Rays possibly splitting half the season in Canada, apparently. So
in Montreal, right?
Montreal.
yeah,
That's
so that'll
right.
be interesting if it happens. But no, I hope
Yeah.
the Blue Jays can be good.
Thank you. Appreciate the love for the Jays. I wish you the same for the Rockies, but I think they're in full rebuild at this point, right?
I hope the Rockies lose 100
You got a high
games
draft
next year
pick?
so they can have a decent prospect. But think about their division with the Giants and the Dodgers and the Padres. They have no chance. But
You're in a tough division too, for sure.
yeah, so if they lose a lot of good, better picks for the next year, I'll be okay. We already lost Story, so we're gonna suck. But I'll still watch because
Yeah.
I like
They're your
torturing
team.
myself.
They're your team.
Yep. It's baseball.
Yeah. Scott, really appreciate your time. We again appreciate all the content you put out on your YouTube channel. So insightful, in depth, and for the nerds and like for us, hardcore baseball collectors, really appreciate all that you put out. And again, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course. And thanks for having me on. It's great to be on the podcast. And thanks for all you guys do for the hobby. And if you ever need another guest talk baseball, feel free to let me know.
Yeah, we might call
Appreciate
you
it.
on opening day. We'll see.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
If there's an opening day,
If
right?
there's an opening day.
Fingers crossed.
There will be.
All right,
I like the
thanks, Scott.
optimism. Thanks, fellas.
All right.